So the timeline would be this. The grand jury will be sitting this afternoon around 2. They're going to hang around to about 5. According to 2 different sources, tell Fox as soon as the witness is done, the prosecutors will explain the charges, and they can immediately say, we're going to indict this guy.
Well, they have to vote.
Yeah, they could vote, and they could say, I'm going to indict this guy. And that could be a quick vote, or it could take a little bit more time. Another option is that the DA could ask the court permission to unseal the indictment. So, for an instance, they could hold a press conference ahead of any court appearance. And the word is in the New York Post today that they're not looking for a perp walk for him, but they are looking for a mugshot and fingerprints. And from the Trump camp, they're saying we might hold a big presser right on the steps.
The problem for the prosecution is the case may rely on a legal theory that has never been used in New York, because the DA has to connect a hush money payment, which is a potential violation of state law, to a federal election. And it's never been done in New York State before. It's untested. And so the risk could be that it would be thrown out by a judge or severely narrowed. So Alvin Bragg's got a lot on the line.
Yeah, well, Jonathan Turley and even President Trump said that the statute of limitations has expired on this. It happened, 7 years ago? Robert Costello, who once worked as a legal advisor to the star witness, Michael Cohen, also a very prominent lawyer, former U.S. attorney, he did appear in front of the grand jury, and he said, I did tell them this. They didn't want to hear it, but I did tell them. Michael Cohen called me and said, I need to talk to you. He said he's been very suicidal. He was worried about him. He said, I don't want to go to jail. I'll do anything. I don't want to go to jail. He said, well, what do you have on Donald Trump? And he said, I really don't have anything. He said he continuously told him, I don't have anything. So he's wondering why now all of a sudden does he have something on
Right. I would say this is a total joke. If he decides to indict a president for the first time in our 230-plus year history, it is a total farce.
As it turns out, the president would not be the first president ever arrested, because we read this morning that Ulysses S. Grant was once arrested for riding a horse too fast in Washington.
Was he had no PPA cards to get him out of it? I'm surprised.
Please.
Because I would have definitely flashed one.
I bet you would. Listen, this is a big story. Piers Morgan, our friend, got a great exclusive yesterday with Ron DeSantis. And what he does, I'm just going to read the headline. Ron hits Don. He criticizes the president's chaos, lack of character, and Piers started by asking about, the soundbite we played yesterday of Ron DeSantis talking about Donald Trump and his legal problems. And that is where Piers started and got Mr. DeSantis talking about the former president.
You did a press conference this morning and you were responding to the reports, rumours of Donald Trump potentially being indicted. And you gave an interesting response, very sort of supportive of him in a way, by saying, yeah, I think what's happening there is outrageous. It's political posturing by the SDA and so on in New York, and they should be focused on more important things. But you also repeated twice you didn't have any knowledge of hush money being paid to porn stars. Was I right to feel that there was a slightly censorious tone to that kind of thing is just not anything you would ever get involved with?
Well, I think there's a lot of speculation about what the underlying conduct is. That is purported to be it. And, the reality is that's just outside my wheelhouse. I mean, that's just not something that I can speak to. So, I hope it doesn't come to where you end up seeing this going forward. I mean, look, if you are a very strident prosecutor, and this guy's on the left, and you're not prosecuting a lot of crimes, Manhattan's gotten less safe, you're going to go after somebody on the other side for some novel offense. That just does not inspire confidence, and people see that as weaponizing the justice system. So I think it's fundamentally wrong to do that, and I just made it be known. But we'll see. Maybe it won't come to that. I mean, we haven't seen anything firm yet.
Piers asked him about his nicknames, and he said, you can call me anything. Just make sure you call me a winner. Look what I've done down in Florida.
It sounded like he preferred DeSanctimonious, though. He said it has a lot of vowels. It's hard to spell, but just to
I really don't know what it means.
Yeah, I don't know what it means, but just don't say I'm not a winner.
So what's very interesting is people have speculated on the side, if he waits 2 months for his legislative session to be over, Donald Trump could imprint him in any way he wanted. Where these nicknames are not answered, if the attacks are not are not countered by the time he decides the legislative session's done and I'm going to be a candidate and it looks like a fait accompli, it might be too late. And I think that's what it seems to have emerged yesterday, because he could have ducked that questions like he's ducked others, but he dug in. And he dug in again, too, because he said, look, I know I could beat Joe Biden, and that should be the focus. Listen.
You could beat Biden?
I think so.
So you're running then?
No, I didn't say that. I just said I think I could. I mean, I think that's. I mean, if you look at Florida,
who would be harder to beat, Biden or Donald Trump?
I don't know.
Keep in mind, he hasn't gotten in the race yet. And I think from a Republican standpoint, if you talk to Republicans, they don't like the fighting, the infighting. They know what's going to happen. They know, primaries right around the corner. We're going to have a lot of people that jump in this race, and that's just going to happen. But I think he was very measured. He wanted to get the point across that I don't have experience with paying porn stars. So that was a dig. But they've been digging back and forth on social media. But I think overall, it was more, like what you said, Brian, it was more overall, I can beat Biden.
Yeah,
right, exactly.
I don't know if I can keep my powder dry much longer.
Well, here's the thing, and DeSantis has a plan, and we all know he's going to run. But what he said is he's going to wait, and he said it on this program as well, he's going to wait for the conclusion of the legislative session down in Florida.
He has more power, and he can veto.
Well, here's what he's going to do. Because he's already got one thing he can ballyhoo, and that is, hey, I was reelected by 20 points. That is big. And he's going to go forward with that. But then he's going to say, look, once he declares, he's going to say, look what we did in Florida. We were able to do this, 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 and this. And I know that a lot of people across the country would like us to do that for America. And that is why I'm running for president of the United States. He wants more of a record that he can run on as president. He's going to keep his powder dry until then. But clearly, he's going to give Donald Trump a run for the money.
Well, Chris Rock and Elon Musk and a few others have said that they think this indictment will backfire on him. Do you think people who are Republicans or supported him before are sick of this?
Well, Trump, I think, was brilliant to come out over the weekend and say, look, this is probably, the legal people probably say, listen, this is going to happen. He goes, okay, this is ridiculous. I'm going to get on the offensive. I'm getting in front of it. I'm going to put them on defensive. I'm going to make them have emergency meetings on a Sunday. I'm going to let they feel, I want that grand jury to feel the pressure. And then Bob Costello, going in there speaking and saying, catching Mike Cohen again lying about releasing him from his attorney-client privilege. Because, are you kidding me? You just lied about it again. And that's who you're depending it on. And when Van Jones of CNN comes out and says, I'm pretty sure he should rethink this, I think they understand what's going on here. Look at this poll. It's a tracking poll, Morning Consult tracking poll, but it's significant. Trump up by almost double on DeSantis. Everybody else in single digits, including Vivek Ramaswamy. And most of those people aren't even in yet. Tim Scott not in yet. Pompeo not in yet. And
only
obviously DeSantis.
Yeah,
only three. Haley and Ramaswamy.
Right. So here's what's happening. We don't know whether or not Donald Trump's going to get indicted today or not. But one of the things we've seen is with his Truth Social all cap stuff, and as Mark Meredith depicted a moment ago, it's nonstop. It's reminding a lot of people, particularly the independents, about things that Donald Trump did when he was president of the United States. They liked his policy. They just didn't like that angle. And the chaos is coming back, and you got to figure that will take a toll somehow on polling.
Yeah, but then also you look at what's happening, and are they using politics to interfere in this election? He's running in 2024.
Well, it's the stake people. It's not the feds. Yeah. It's the stake guy.
Well, Pierce's interview, you can catch it. It drops tomorrow on Fox Nation. It's Piers Morgan, Uncensored, if you want to see the full Ron DeSantis interview.
Right. And by the way, for the record, I think he does like you. He likes our show, but he likes you best. I'm pretty sure.
Who is that? Piers?
Piers Morgan, right? Would you say so, Chris?
Pierce and I go way back. We've spent our time in London
I'm
together
just saying,
covering the royal
I
family.
get the sense. I get the sense. We're going to ask him, though. Right, Chris? Yeah.
Are you jealous?
A little bit.
I think Jack Keane loves you the best.
That's true. I got the general. You got Piers.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.